Let's talk about a very, very spicy poison. This is Sarin, and you may have heard of it because it is very bad. Like this is not something you want to be exposed to ever, even a little bit. So, sarin is what is known as a nerve agent, and if you know what those are, you know that they're incredibly nasty. Basically, it messes with acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter, basically a small molecule that helps send nerve signals throughout your body. So sarin, it messes with the degradation of acetylcholine, which basically results in the inability to be able to control your muscles. You can no longer have any sort of muscular control whatsoever. That's even the involuntary muscles, such as the ones used for breathing and for your heart beating. Now, sarin is a very fast-acting nerve agent. You start to feel it within 10 or so minutes, and without treatment, you will die very soon after that. Kind of the first initial symptoms are kind of a runny nose, feeling of nausea, and then it starts to get more severe. You start drooling, and you start losing all control over your muscles. As it progresses, you lose control of every single bodily function, so it results in a lot of twitching and spasming of your muscles, as well as urination, vomiting, and defecation, because you can no longer control any of that at all. So the convulsions start, you start looking like you're having a seizure, and then without treatment you die. And most of the time, cause of death is from asphyxiation because your breathing muscles no longer work. You cannot breathe at all, so there is no oxygen going where you need to, and basically you stop breathing, so you kind of suffocate or asphyxiate. Now, depending on the dose as well as the physiology of the affected individual, it can begin to take effect between 1 and 10 minutes after exposure and is lethal very quickly after that. Now, there is an antidote, but it has to be applied very, very fast, and since this used to be, it's banned now, but since it was previously used as a chemical weapon, sometimes people going into areas where there was a risk of sarin exposure were pre-given the antidote. So they were given the antidote just in case of exposure, and if they were exposed, the antidote would save their lives long enough to reapply the antidote and hopefully save them. But yeah, you have to apply it very, very quickly, or else you're gonna die a very nasty death. Because again, it messes with acetylcholine, and acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter, which basically sends nerve signals, and it works to stimulate muscles. And once the muscle stimulation is over and done with, there's an enzyme called acetylcholine esterase, which breaks down acetylcholine to stop the muscle contraction. So acetylcholine stimulates, acetylcholine esterase reduces or inhibits. So technically, sarin doesn't mess with acetylcholine itself, it messes with acetylcholine esterase, so by blocking the action of that enzyme, it blocks the degradation of acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is there all the time and it's not being degraded, so you basically have sustained, continued, uncontrolled muscle movements and contractions that you physically cannot control. You are no longer in control of any of your bodily muscles or functions. So basically, your muscles are constantly being stimulated in a way that you cannot stop or control until either all of your energy is depleted and your muscles stop working, or more likely until you die of asphyxiation because your lungs are not working because you can't make them work. Now, sarin is incredibly, incredibly toxic. It has been described as more than 20 times more toxic than cyanide, which is another pretty spicy one. The LD50 of this in mice, which is the lethal dose, in mice, it's said to be 172 micrograms, and a microgram is 1,000 times less than a milligram, so that is a very, very small amount. Now, obviously, humans are a lot bigger than mice, so it would take a bit more of that to kill a human than it does a mouse, but that is still not a large amount. Additionally, it's toxic by skin contact or inhalation or ingestion. So basically, any contact with this chemical is going to lead you to a very bad time. Since this is such a nasty chemical and it is used in chemical warfare, it is banned pretty much everywhere. It is illegal in pretty much every case. It violates the Geneva Conventions, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's very fascinating and interesting in how it works, but also, no.